The night they fired her, the snow was falling so quietly it felt like the world itself was holding its breath, and Eleanor Whitmore stood alone outside the bakery with a cardboard box in her trembling arms, staring at the darkened windows where she had given 10 years of her life without ever hearing a single word of thanks. Christmas Eve lights flickered across the empty street, mocking her grief, as the deaf widow realized that the last fragile thread holding her life together had just been cut. Before the story continues, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that still happen in this world, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who needs hope, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Eleanor had learned to read the world through movement, expressions, and subtle shifts in the air ever since scarlet fever stole her hearing at age 9. When her husband, Thomas Whitmore, died in a factory accident 7 years earlier, silence became more than a condition, it became a weight she carried everywhere. The bakery had been her refuge. The warmth of the ovens, the steady rhythm of kneading dough, the familiar faces of regular customers who smiled kindly and spoke slowly so she could read their lips. She worked harder than anyone, arrived earlier, stayed later, and never complained. But when business slowed and profits tightened, kindness became expendable. The manager avoided her eyes while handing her the termination notice, his lips moving too fast, his face stiff with discomfort. She understood anyway. She always did. That night, Eleanor walked home through the snow to her small apartment above a closed tailor shop. The stairs creaked beneath her boots, each step echoing in a way she felt rather than heard. She placed the box on her kitchen table and stared at its contents, her apron, a cracked mug, a faded photo of Thomas she kept in her locker for courage. The Christmas tree in the corner stood undecorated, a relic from a time when joy had felt possible. She sat on the floor, her back against the wall, and for the first time in years allowed herself to cry without restraint, the tears hot and relentless, the silence absolute. The days that followed were heavy and gray. Eleanor searched for work relentlessly, visiting shops, restaurants, and offices, presenting handwritten notes explaining her skills and disability. Some smiled politely and shook their heads. Others barely looked at her. Bills piled up. The landlord's notices slid under her door like quiet threats. Christmas passed without celebration, marked only by the cold glow of streetlights and the ache in her chest. She began skipping meals, stretching what little money she had, convincing herself hunger was temporary but despair felt permanent. On a bitter January morning, while walking back from another failed job inquiry, Eleanor noticed a man struggling outside the old community center. His car hood was open, steam rising into the cold air, while 3 small children huddled nearby, their identical red scarves flapping wildly in the wind. The man's face was pale with exhaustion, his movements frantic. Eleanor felt an instinctive pull. She approached slowly, gesturing to get his attention. His name was Michael Harrington, though she would learn that later. A widower, recently relocated, overwhelmed by life and grief, raising triplets alone after losing his wife to cancer the year before. Though Eleanor could not hear, she understood enough. The car battery was dead, the children cold and frightened. She guided them into the community center's lobby, which was thankfully unlocked, and found blankets in a storage closet she remembered from volunteering years ago. Her hands moved with quiet confidence, her face calm and reassuring. Michael watched her in astonishment as she worked efficiently, communicating through gestures, written notes, and warm expressions. In that moment, something shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. Over the following weeks, their paths crossed again and again. Michael learned Eleanor lived nearby and began stopping by with the children under the excuse of borrowed sugar or returned mail. The triplets, Oliver, Henry, and Grace, were drawn to her gentleness. They learned quickly how to tap her shoulder before approaching, how to exaggerate expressions so she could understand them. Eleanor, who had not realized how lonely she had been, found her apartment slowly filling with life. The walls that once echoed with silence now held laughter she could feel through vibrations in the floor, in the air, in her chest. Michael discovered Eleanor's past at the bakery and her struggles. He saw how she flinched at official letters, how carefully she counted coins at the grocery store. Without pity, but with deep respect, he offered her work helping at the community center, which he had recently taken over managing. It was part-time at first, organizing donations, preparing meals for families in need, teaching basic baking skills to teenagers. Eleanor flourished. Her confidence returned, her posture straightened, her eyes brightened. People noticed. Word spread. Donations increased. Attendance grew. As winter turned to spring, Eleanor's life transformed in quiet, steady ways. She was no longer just surviving. She was needed. Michael, still carrying his own grief, found comfort in her presence. They did not rush anything. Their connection grew through shared understanding of loss, through patience, through the children who bonded them in ways words never could. Eleanor found herself decorating her tree again the following December, this time with handmade ornaments the triplets proudly hung, their faces glowing with pride. The true test came when the bakery that had fired Eleanor announced its closure. The owner, desperate, approached the community center asking for help rebranding, hoping to attract customers again. Eleanor stood in the same building where she had once been dismissed, not as a broken widow but as a confident woman surrounded by people who valued her. She offered guidance, not bitterness. She helped redesign the menu, train staff in inclusive practices, and rebuild trust. The bakery reopened months later, stronger than before, publicly acknowledging Eleanor's contributions. As Christmas approached again, snow fell just as softly as it had the year before, but everything felt different. Eleanor stood in the warm glow of the community center, watching Michael and the triplets decorate the hall for a holiday event serving dozens of families. She felt gratitude so profound it almost hurt. Not for the pain she endured, but for the path it had led her down. If this story is touching your heart, if you feel the warmth of second chances and unexpected kindness, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can find their way to you. And before this story ends, we would truly love to know, please comment the word hope if you believe that even the darkest moments can lead to light. On Christmas Eve, 1 year after losing everything, Eleanor stood surrounded by love, purpose, and belonging. She had been fired, forgotten, and left in silence, but she was never broken. Sometimes hope doesn't arrive with noise or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the form of a widower, 3 children, and a simple act of kindness that changes everything forever.